Welcome to Arabic خطوات. In this video, we'll be introduced to the Arabic root and pattern system. This lesson will introduce you to different ways on how to learn more Arabic vocabulary through recognizing the root of the word in different contexts. To give you a brief introduction about the root system and the pattern system, when we're talking about the root system, we are referring to the letters. And when we're talking about the pattern system, we're referring to sound or sounds. So the root system, as in the example here, what we have is ka, ta, ba, and I'm placing the fathas just to pronounce the sounds of ka, ta, ba. The root system comes separate as isolated letters because they happen in different words. Let's look at this example right here. We have author, and author is katib, katib, katib. What happens here is we are sharing the meaning of writing in the word author because he is the person who writes, meaning he is involved in the action of writing. So the meaning of words would be either the verb, the action, or the context of writing. We have different examples. It could be a person, it could be a place, it could be an object, it could be even a gerund, which is a noun. So I'm going to write these examples right here. And as I'm writing, please try to recognize the root of all the words that share the same meaning of writing. So here we have katib, katib. And then we have maktaba, maktaba. For library, maktaba, maktaba, maktaba. Library or bookstore. Then we have maktab, 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 office, maktab. I'll write it again. Maktab, maktaba, kutub, maktub, kitaba, and more vocabulary. The examples I'm sharing with you here, they are referring basically to the meaning, again, the meaning of writing. And as we're talking about writing, we're referring to kitaba. All the words we have here share the exact same roots, meaning they are associated with the writing. Maktab, 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 office or desk, maktaba, library, and then kutub, books. Then we have maktub, a letter, and then kitaba, which is the noun of the verb kataba. And here I will add the verb kataba. to write. The root system, as I was explaining, it introduces the meaning. And then when it comes to learning vocabulary, you use the root system to understand the context. The pattern helps us determine whether the vocabulary is an object, a place, like maktaba, or a person, or an action. And we're going to look at more examples. So when we're talking about the pattern right here, as I said, we are using actual words with the letters connected to it. And here we have the verb kataba, kataba. The pattern introduces the sound, the sound. So what happens is I only place the short vowels. The short vowels. The short vowels are what I use to sound out the root system, or the root letters, if I should say. But we do not only base our understanding on the short cases or the short vowels. What we do is we find equivalent sounds to each root letter. So for kaf, for example, we refer to it as fa, and ta refer to it as ayn, and ba refer to it as lam. So if I'm writing the verb kataba, I'll try to keep the same colors. So if I'm writing the verb kataba, to write, and I want to find the pattern of kataba, I use fa for kaf, ayn for ta, and lam for ba. If I happen to have a word that has an additional sound, like ma, kitab, maktab, what happens is the letters of the pattern do not change, and I'm sounding the word as maf'al, maf'al, maf'al. Why do we learn the pattern system? The pattern system helps us determine a set of vocabulary that share the exact same context. So when I'm talking about maktab, obviously I'm referring to a place, or an object like a desk. I could be learning a new meaning, and the meaning can be like sitting. I can write the word for sitting, or the meaning for sitting is jim, lam, and sa. That means sitting. Jim, lam, sa. If I find jim, lam, and sa in a word, that means the word has something to do with the meaning sitting. So what I do here is I am referring to place. I have additional sounds here. I do ma, just like maktab, and I put the meaning of sitting. And then majlis, majlis. Majlis and maktab are both places and objects, like an area. There are many other examples, like the meaning of writing. Studying. So if I'm referring to studying, I would be using the root darasa. Then I'm trying to understand, or I run into a word that shares the same root as darasa, meaning studying. And then what I do is I look at the word, and it has madrasa, I already learned that the meme at the beginning of the word refers to a place. So obviously madrasa is a place and it's school. Madrasa, madrasa. So basically the pattern system comes in 10 different forms. We get to learn each form separately because each pattern has a different meaning. So for the pattern number 1, it rhymes with any verb that has fa, la, meaning it has fatha, 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 or fa'ila, it has fatha, kasra, fatha. So I can think of a verb that says, we'll use kataba again. And then we use darasa. And then jalasa, fataha. All of these verbs, they share the exact same pattern. So basically what happens, all of them rhyme. Darasa, jalasa, fataha. So they all share the same pattern, the same sound, but they do not share the same meaning. So when it comes to meaning, each one is different. So kataba has to do with writing, and these are all verbs, but I'm referring to the meaning right here. So writing, and here darasa, studying, and then jalasa, sitting, fataha, opening. So the meaning is different, but the pattern is the same because they all rhyme. When it comes to fa'ila, it could be a different, of course, it would be a different sound, different rhyming, and of course, different meanings. So when we say alima, alima is he learned. So basically the meaning is learning or acquiring knowledge. And then we have qabila, he accepted. And then we have shariba, means he drank and has to do with the meaning of drinking. So as we can see here, pattern 1 comes in 2 different sounds, fa'ala and fa'ila. The only difference is in fatha on top, and it rhymes with all the verbs that you can see down here. Kataba, darasa, jalasa, fataha. And the other sound is fa'ila, and it's only kasra underneath ayn, and it rhymes with alima, he learned, qabila, accepted, and shariba, he drank. Just to remind you that pattern 1 has 2 sounds. We'll get introduced to all 10 patterns, but we're just learning how to determine the meaning or differentiate between the meaning, which is in the root, and then the pattern, which is in the sound, and then basically the action or the context of the verbs if you're using verbs. let's look at more examples right here. And I'm going to refer to الوزن using فعل. الجدر, it can be again كتب, and ka at the beginning is like this, but I can refer to it as the isolated form like this, kaf. الفعل. So basically the root system, it introduces the meaning, as I was saying. The pattern introduces sound, but the الفعل verb introduces different actions or different contexts. Basically, when you're saying write, you could be saying كتب, to write, كاتب, to correspond with someone, تكاتب, that includes two people writing to each other, and then you could find اكتتب, تتب, and more verbs including different players, who is talking, what's happening, where the action is happening, who is doing the action, how many players are in the action. In line with the verb pattern, what we were introduced to in earlier video is that the verbs come in 10 different forms, meaning 10 different sounds. Not only verbs, even nouns, but to avoid any other confusion, we are only referring to verbs in this chart, and then the verbs come in the past and then the present. Verbs in Arabic, as you all know by now, they all come or are referred to as the third person masculine in the past, meaning he, هو. Third person masculine in the past. The first form has a slight difference when it comes to the sound. And here you have فعل, and we're using the example of ذهب, go. The first one is the past, and then the second one is the present. ذهب, ذهب, he went. It rhymes with فعل. ذهب, فعل, ذهب, فعل. يذهب, يفعل, يذهب, يفعل. So I'm going to read the past and all these forms, and I will read the equivalent verbs that match the pattern in the past. Then I will move on to read in the present. So please listen in carefully and repeat after me. So we will begin with the past. فعل, رجع, فعل, كتب, فعل, شرب. يفعل, present tense. يفعل, يرجع, يفعل, يرجع. يفعل, you can see the slight difference. يفعل, يكتب, يفعل, يشرب. This is form 1, and the conjugation helps you determine how to sound the verb once you conjugate it to the rest of the subject pronouns. If you're saying I do, he does, she does, you are keeping the same sound at the end. So يكتب, أكتب, تكتب, تكتبين, يكتب. and you have u, which is dhamma here. And it rhymes with ru. And then here you say yarji'u, it rhymes with I. And yashrabu rhymes with a, ra, a. Let's read all these verbs, and then as I read, I will keep the order of past and present. And the patterns here refer to the sound. The patterns here refer to the sounds that these verbs make. And these are the actual verbs. The sounds refer to the pattern. The verbs refer to meaning of an action. فعل، ذهب، فعل، رجع، فعل، كتب، فعل، شرب، فعل، درس، فاعل، شاهد، أفعل، أقبل، تفعل، تحدث، تفاعل، تقابل، انفعل، انصرف، افتعل، اعتمد، افعل، احمر، استفعل، استخدم. Now we're going to read the present tense of the same verbs. And then the present tense is conjugated again to he does, or he returns, he writes. يفعل، يذهب، يفعل، يرجع، يفعل، يكتب، يفعل، يشرب، يفعل، يدرس، يفاعل، يشاهد، يفعل، يقبل، يتفعل، يتحدث، يتفاعل، يتقابل، ينفعل، ينصرف، يفتعل، يعتمد، يفعل، يحمر، يستفعل، يستخدم.